Welcome to the uni-max workshop. My name is Tomas Krasinski, and this time we will once again get our hands dirty. Have you ever heard the term French Cleat? It's a simple and effective system for hanging various items on the wall. The wedge locking mechanism allows for easy installation and just as easy removal, so this system is used not only for permanently hanging furniture, but also on panels for variable hanging of tools, equipment, and fixtures right in the workshop. In uni-max's offering, you'll find several industrially manufactured hanging panels, such as the legendary inherited Mars wall with hooks that can be locked into many holes as needed. The board also has keyhole-shaped openings for an alternative hanging method, such as using the heads of screws or screws. The uses are very versatile, and the special hooks, or rather spikes, are ideal for hanging certain types of tools and fixtures. The board is mounted on the wall. The second type is a hanging panel designed for mounting on a workbench. It consists of two types of boards and two shelves. One of the boards is compatible with the Schluter S10 clamping system with a hole spacing of 38 millimeters, while the other board is used for hanging storage boxes. But as we technical enthusiasts say, not every hanging system is one that will please everyone. And that's why uni-max understood when I decided to equip the workshop with a custom-made panel using the French Cleat system. You can create each element exactly according to your ideas and add any shelf, box, or custom holder at any time. What will you need for that? A board made of MDF plywood, or maybe OSB. I used a board that is 12 millimeters thick. If you don't have much space in the workshop, you can attach it directly to the wall and continue the assembly in a vertical position. Now it's necessary to make strips with one edge cut at a 45 degrees angle, which will be attached to the board at regular intervals. I chose a spacing of 150 millimeters. To maintain the spacing, it's a good idea to mark the position of the strips on the board. You can cut the strips on a table saw, first cutting them into strips of the appropriate width and then splitting them along the middle with a 45 degrees bevel blade, which will create two strips at once. This method is quick because you first make all the straight cuts and then all the angled cuts at once. The second option is a plunge saw with a guide rail. In that case, you need to alternate between straight cuts and bevel cuts, but adjusting the saw for each position is easy and quick. And for me, it was a good excuse to test the Triton TDS 1400 plunge saw. I ordered a 1,500 millimeters guide rail for it. You can see it behind me. But you can also choose a more space-saving option with two rails that are only 700 millimeters long, which connect together with the appropriate connectors. The shorter rails are more compact and individually more practical for crossed cuts. The saw isn't the lightest, weighing 5.4 kilograms, but since it's designed for cutting with a guide rail, which it moves along sliding surfaces, that's not such a big issue. A cutting depth of 54 millimeters is specified for cutting with the rail, which takes off a few millimeters, so for maximum cutting depth, guide the saw directly along the workpiece. Then you can reach up to 60 millimeters. In this case, you can guide the saw along some rail, or using an optional parallel stop, along the straight edge of the workpiece. Clamps are used to secure the guide rail to the workpiece, and they are compatible with guide rails from other manufacturers as well. For example, these are clamps for the Makita guide rail and they fit. Triton also offers one-handed sliding clamps for its rail. Cutting a narrow workpiece in half isn't exactly a suitable task for a plunge saw, but it's perfect for gradually cutting narrow strips from a large sheet. It is primarily designed for formatting sheet materials, where it's easier to handle a small saw than a large workpiece. Thanks to the perfectly straight rail, you can so-called skin material with uneven edges, and then a parallel cut can be made on a table saw using a parallel guide, and as the name of the saw suggests, it is also designed for plunge cuts in the material's surface. Compared to a standard handheld circular saw, which we usually call a maffle, it has the advantage of extending the blade to a preset depth and automatically retracting it back into the guard. Thanks to this, we can safely place the saw on the table. The blade only extends after unlocking the lock. The notches on the guard indicate how far the fully extended blade will cut. Compared to a maffle, the dust extraction is usually more effective because the blade is much better covered. The saw also has a pre-cutting function, where the blade extends only about 2 millimeters below the level of the guide rail. With this setting, you will cleanly cut through the top layer of the workpiece, so during the subsequent deep cut, there won't be as much chipping of the material. The Trident TBS 1400 doesn't just cut vertically. It can also cut at an angle ranging from -1 to +48 degrees. Unfortunately, it doesn't have stops for the most common angles, and the extreme positions or scales aren't entirely accurate, so for really precise adjustments, a square is needed. It's also worth mentioning the speed control ranging from 2,000 to 5,000 RPM, allowing you to set the appropriate peripheral speed for materials that would otherwise burn or melt at full speed. But back to work. I have the boards cut, so I'll pre-drill holes for the screws, ideally including countersinking. The screws aren't really for securing the strips to the board, but rather for holding them in place while flying. Once the glue has dried, you can start hanging shelves, boxes, and holders. What you make and where you place them is entirely up to you. The panel with the French Cleat system allows you to customize individual elements and the entire panel according to your needs. This makes it an ideal complement to industrially manufactured systems. Each of them has its advantages, and you'll make use of all of them in a proper workshop. Also keep in mind that vertical storage spaces are much more organized, and importantly, items on the wall won't clutter the floor or the table. It was a pleasure once again, and if it was for you too, please give us a like and subscribe. If you also click the bell, you'll be the first to see every new video from the uni-max workshop. We welcome your constructive comments and any questions. You can find links to all the products, as usual, in the description below the video. I'm already looking forward to seeing you in the next video.